On March 16, 1968, New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy decided to follow in his brother's footsteps and declared his candidacy for President of the United States. Less than 3 months later, Bobby Kennedy, like his brother before him, was assassinated, cutting short a political career filled with promise and hope. Now, 50 years later, Bobby Kennedy's life, his transformation into a liberal icon, and his doomed presidential campaign are the subject of a comprehensive new 4-part Netflix documentary. Through archival footage some never seen before, Bobby Kennedy for President takes an in-depth look at what drove Kennedy to seek public office, the events that shaped his political ideals, and his enduring legacy decades after his assassination at the hands of Sirhan Sirhan at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Here's a preview.
My name is Robert Kennedy.
I am announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Robert Kennedy's self-confidence came from his family.
He had learned you didn't do things that you weren't going to win. But the new politics said you do the cause, whether you win or not.
What we need in the United States is not hatred, violence, but is compassion toward one another.
And joining us now is the director and executive producer of Bobby Kennedy for President, Dawn Porter. Dawn, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's an exceptional documentary, I have to say. It truly is. But let me start with this. According to conventional wisdom, there were two Bobby Kennedys. One, the dark and ruthless enforcer of his family's ambition, and the other, the existential hero who could barely conceal his sorrow for the suffering of the poor or his anger at the injustices he witnessed. Is the conventional wisdom accurate?
I think like all, kind of mythology, there's a lot of mythology about the Kennedy family and the Kennedy brothers. There's some truth to the mythology, but I think it takes some contextualizing. I think there's more to the story, and that's really what inspired us to go and dig deeper and to fill in those missing parts, to say, how do you reconcile those two Bobby Kennedys? That was one of the really interesting challenges of doing this project.
You know, and the transformation, which a lot of people attribute to the assassination of John Kennedy, as your documentaries show, a lot of that transformation began earlier with his encounters of the civil rights movement. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was the most fascinating to me was understanding how Bobby Kennedy got to become the civil rights leader that he eventually becomes by the end of his life. Civil rights was not at the top of the Kennedy brothers' agenda. And so that was a process. And I think sometimes we forget that, government leaders need to go through that transformational process. And something that was really exciting was watching through his interactions with leaders like John Lewis, who was a young civil rights leader at the time, Harry Belafonte, Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez. It was really through those interactions and through his work with those folks that Kennedy becomes the liberal icon, crusader for justice that we think of him today.
Yeah. Well, as you said, Bobby Kennedy is now considered a liberal icon. But as your documentary shows, and a lot of biographies of him show, he was far from being a traditional liberal, even after the transformation. For example, he was very suspicious of a lot of federal aid and welfare, extended welfare. He felt that it would create a culture of dependence, and that's why he was critical of the Great Society. So why is that aspect of his ideas so often forgotten, and do they have any lessons for today's progressives and liberals?
I think I love that question so much. And I think the answer is absolutely. And this is what's so great about having a series where you can explore people's ideology, where you can explore their ideas, have some time to talk them through. So Kennedy's belief was not just, I'm anti-welfare, don't give people a handout. It was more driven by, how do we help people for a longer term? It was kind of a teach a person to fish kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. And he was worried that if people weren't actually, what he was really focused on was giving people jobs and giving people economic opportunity in order to have a long-term, lasting, sustaining economic viability.
In about 30 seconds that we have left, and I guess this is unfair, what is the longest lasting legacy of Bobby Kennedy 50 years after his assassination?
I think we see in examining Kennedy's life, we see how leadership is important, how not being worried about your own power, but focused on service. One of my favorite lines that he says in all of the archive footage that we search through is, "I'd like to serve." And I think that focus on service, we forget too often in our contemporary time that politics and government is really about service. That is really the core focus of what our politicians should be doing for us. And so I hope when people are watching this, they'll think about, in what ways they can serve. Anyone can do service. It's just the service that you choose.
All right. Well, Dawn, thank you so much. It is an extraordinary documentary series. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.